So the definition that's on the screen is language from the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is the ADA. But essentially what this is saying is that a person can be categorized as having a disability if it changes their day-to-day life in one or more ways. So it can be something that you self-identify as having a disability. It can be a diagnosis that has been made by a doctor or something that a parent or another friend has noticed and they have diagnosed you as having a disability. But really it's just looking at how does your day-to-day life work, and are there things that you need help with at least once during your day? And that would be how we define disability. And I think that it's really important to just showcase that there are a lot of different types of disabilities. Usually the ones that we tend to think of, or that other people tend to think of, are the visible disabilities. So the ones that you can see when you look at somebody. So if somebody uses a wheelchair, or they have a service animal, or they use a cane, something where you look at them and you know that they have a disability. Sometimes it can be the same with intellectual disabilities, is you notice that mannerisms are off, but you don't exactly know why. And I really want to point out that a lot of disabilities are invisible. So learning disabilities, chronic health conditions, there's a lot that goes on that people don't see, and those are also wrapped up in the definition of disability. There is a screenshot from Google on the screen right now, and this is just a basic Google search of the word disability. So if I didn't know what disability meant and I wanted to go on Google and figure it out, this is the first definition that would pop up. And I really want to just highlight how different this definition is than what we first initially talked about. So when we pull out some of the concerning language from this definition and from the sentence example that they give to provide context for the word disability, we're seeing words such as handicap and shameful. And think about, if this is the first definition that pops up, this is what a lot of people are taking away about the word disability. So anyone wanting to learn more is going to come away from their search with a negative impression about disability and an oversimplified definition of what a person with a disability can and cannot do. So if we examine the sentence that was created, it said he quit his job, he had to quit his job and go on disability. And what this does is creates an assumption that somebody with a disability is incapable of working, or that they can't be relied on to be employed. And not only can they not work, but that they must be incapable of taking care of themselves or those around them. And this creates a narrative that people with disabilities just can't, period. And it also creates a narrative that if they can't work, then, well, they'll just get disability benefits, and that's how they'll have money, and that's how they'll live. And that is a very complicated issue where not everybody gets approved for disability benefits. Sometimes the money isn't even enough to live off of. And so it's not as simple as saying, well, they have a disability, they can't work, they don't need to work anyways, they'll get money from somewhere else. So it's a very layered issue. And this definition and example does not do that justice.
When Rachel first showed me this definition, I could not identify exactly what was off about it, because these words seemed like the word like disadvantage, like it just felt so normal because of the world that I've grown up in. Let's see even more clearly with this Venn diagram what the intention, the impact, and unintended harm of that phrase could be.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is kind of break down and show you the intention behind something, the unintended harm that results of it, and then when those two things come together, what the actual impact is, whether it's positive or negative. So when we break down the definition, the example sentence, and the assumptions being made, we can much more clearly see the difference between the impact and intention. So the intention was to provide a concise definition of disability, as well as to provide context of how disability can be used and applied. Due to harmful assumptions that were most likely unintentional, the impact doesn't match the intention. So the unintended harm created a stereotype and a problematic narrative about people with disabilities. Only negative language was utilized, and that plays into the assumption that people with disabilities are incapable of successful employment or independence. So the impact of this definition is the continuation of a negative stereotype and a narrative about people with disabilities that ties value and worth into perceived abilities.